Rama 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 Rama. Bhagwan Shri Yogi Ramsuratkumar ki jai. Sarvam Yogi Ramsuratkumar Arpanamastu. We can never thank Bhagwan sufficiently for all the grace that we get. In fact, when you think about it deeply, everything seems to be grace. And but for grace, nothing could happen at all. Nothing worth doing. This is what we slowly come to understand in life. This is the greatness of the Guru. He makes us aware that everything is grace. And but for grace, nothing could be achieved. 1 hour sitting together, chanting this powerful, auspicious name cannot be small grace. So it's grace for celebration and for remembering always. Now we have been seeing some of the statements of Sri Sritaramdas Swami. He is an authority because by chanting the name, he attained the highest spiritual experience and stayed established in it. And Swami, Bhagwan, Yogi Ramsuratkumar, was very, very fond of him, particularly his book on Nama, Nami Ki Vani. Now here, Sritaramdas Swami says that it's very important to control one's tongue. The tongue, let's all remember what Bhagwan had to say when somebody complained that the Nama chanting became mechanical every time he attempted. And so he gave up, thinking it was mechanical, and what was the use? There was no feeling or love. And pat came the reply from Bhagwan, it doesn't matter if the mind is wandering. When you chant the name, at least your tongue is not wandering. What a beautiful reply. Only Bhagwan could give. So you see, the tongue has a tendency to wander. What does it mean? When the tongue wanders, we have no control over it. It talks about this person and that person. It talks about this and that, the unwanted this and that. And most of the time, it's a lot of waste of one's precious energy. This gossiping and talking unnecessarily, uninvited, all the time complaining about this person and that person, or pointing out to others their mistakes. It might not be mistakes also, but then these people understand according to their nature and capacity for understanding. Now, The whole body has been created to serve the Creator. The tongue has been created to chant His name, to praise God, and to speak all that is necessary and will give solace, will speak the right thing, will speak the truth. The tongue is meant for truth and kindness in dealings with people, in interactions with people, in situations. Now let's see how much we do that. Sritaramdas Swami recommends for both grihasthas and the sannyasis to keep this mauna, to keep silence. It would be forced silence in the beginning, but then it's okay, that's how we begin. At least for 1 hour a day. And for the sannyasis, of course, it should be more than that, much more than that. For the grihasthas, he recommends 3 hours a day. To begin with, you observe 1 hour silence. And slowly, slowly, your tongue will get used to only chanting the name, reciting the slokas, and speak only when and if necessary. Like he said, a sannyasi has to do a japam of 1 lakh per day, and a grihastha 25,000 at least a day. He says 3 hours of mauna. When you chant the name for 1 hour, that 1 hour you are not talking to anybody. You are not talking about this person, that person, not gossiping, not thinking about anything else. So if you can do 1 more hour in the afternoon and 1 hour in the evening, and that apart, if you practice silence at least for 1 hour, apart from the 3 hours of chanting when you cannot talk, he says you practice 1 hour of silence when you can talk to people, to begin with, and then keep on extending it. We saw, I think yesterday or day before yesterday, the general advice, I think it was by Swami Vivekananda. He said, use your viveka, the discrimination, and before you speak, you think whether it is the truth that you are going to say and whether it is necessary at all to say, and thirdly, whether it would not hurt anybody. These 3 are to be avoided at any cost. You try to speak only the truth. You try to speak only the kind word as much as possible. And then you speak only if it is necessary. You don't speak uninvited. So this mauna is very important. Why is it important? Because originally the Parabrahman, from the Parabrahman, the pure awareness, the Shabda Brahman, the Pranava, came out. The Pranava is the primordial sound. And from this, the other sounds, the other mantras have been produced. Now when you see every object in the cosmos, you can be very sure that it is the manifestation of a certain sound. Everything, every manifested object in the cosmos has the sound as the basis. Now the pranava inside a human being, inside all beings for that matter, the living beings, the Parabrahman expresses during the manifestation in two ways. One is the sound, the pranava, becomes so hum so. It's called a Hamsa mantra. And then the prana shakti. It is the prana that has manifested as your in-breath and out-breath. And if you observe carefully with all your being, you would see the sound the out-breath makes is sa. And the sound the in-breath makes, hum. So, this in-breath and out-breath, the dance of Shiva Shakti, they say, it's so hum, so hum. So means that, saha. Hum, I am that, I am that, I am that. It's called Hamsa mantra. Your very breath makes the sound all the time. It is unheard by human ears because the humans are not paying attention to it. You're not drawn inward and you don't observe your breath enough. But if you observe closely, you could hear the sounds. This is called Hamsa mantra. It's called ajapa japa because it's not being done as japa by the ego self. It is the natural utterance of the breath, and the breath is the manifestation of prana. So you see your in-breath and out-breath every day, 21,600 times. This mantra, the ajapa japa, the Hamsa mantra is going on. Hum, sir, so hum, so hum. So your very breath tells you that you are that from which the breath has manifested, the sound has manifested, and the whole universe that is manifested out of this sound. Now, from the silence of the Parabrahman is absolutely silent because there is no second. It is the one existence. And then when it manifests, when there is a stir in the silence of the Parabrahman, that the first sound emerged as Om, the Pranava, the Shabda Brahman. With that, the pranic force, what we call the vital force. Now the sound it starts as Paravani. Para means supreme, Vani means voice. The voice supreme, it is the voice of the divine. It is the voice of the Parabrahman. And this Paravani is silence. The voice of the Parabrahman is silent. And from that, it slowly manifests. It begins to manifest as Pashyanti, and then Madhyama, and then finally Vaikhari. And the Vaikhari is on the tip of the tongue. It is on the tongue where the speech, the gross form of the Shabda Brahman is Vaikhari. Now when we do the japa, when we do the Nama chanting, we go in the reverse direction. We start from Vaikari. We start chanting loudly with the tongue. And as you keep on chanting, 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 slowly the center from which the chant comes shifts inward. It goes to Madhyama, and from there to the Pashyanti center, and finally it goes to the Paravani, where it merges with the Parabrahma. So you see, the Nama will take you through the path of sound from Vaikari to Madhyama, Madhyama to Pashyanti, and Pashyanti to Paravani. And Paravani is the Om, the Pranava, the first sound that manifested out of the silent Parabrahman. So here, the Nama chanting that we all do, it's mostly from the tongue, and therefore it is centered at Vaikari. Now it's only when you go on chanting, 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 putting your concentration on it, putting your entire being on it, and you multiply also the quantity, the Nama, and then slowly it shifts to the throat, and from the throat to the heart, from the heart to the navel, and then from there to its final merger with the divine. So this is the path of Nama. So be very sure that the Nama that you chant will take you easily, if somewhat slowly, to the Parabrahman, the Nada Brahman, the Shabda Brahman, and from the Shabda Brahman to Parabrahman, for which this Mauna is very important, because the original state of the sound is silence. They say the silence is the most eloquent speech. This is why Dakshinamurti is ever in silence. And his disciples, the 4 disciples that you see with him, they understand everything through silence. The silence communicates much more powerfully than the verbal words. When it comes to the verbal word, finally, it has much, much less energy. So let's make sure that we observe the silence at least for 1 hour a day and 3 hours of chanting apart from this. Even for grihasthas, it's necessary for transformation of inner and outer lives. And then Swami Sritaramdas Swami says this prana, how the prana also gets transformed by our chanting. If you can look into your mind, there are thoughts and thoughts and thoughts. They are raising. Now these thoughts are all manifestation of this prana. The prana is ever in motion. It is the restlessness of the prana that creates thoughts, words and actions. The whole cosmos is filled with this restless prana. It is the prana which is behind every action. It is behind the words that you speak. It's behind your thoughts. Fortunately, the thoughts that we have, a sound that we are not able to hear. There are sounds the human ears cannot hear. There are lights the human eyes cannot see For example, the Devas, they're all in the light forms, but you cannot see them. You're not equipped to see. You don't have the sensitivity, the spiritual sensitivity to see them. Now, similarly, you cannot hear certain sounds also. Now, if every thought, the thought has sound, but you cannot hear, but just imagine, if there are even two people in a place, the thoughts that must be passing through them, racing through them, how much noise it would make. And if there are 5 people living in the same room, thrown into each other's company all the time, you can imagine the deafening noise the thoughts could make. Our benevolent and kind God has silenced the thoughts. So that is why we are comfortable with others. Otherwise, we won't be comfortable at all with others. So it's a good thing the thoughts don't speak, except through the tongue. And in speaking with the tongue, we waste so much of energy. Every thought consumes your precious energy. Now what to say of word? A word consumes even more energy. So the more you speak unnecessarily, more is the wastage of precious energy and more distanced you are from God. The more you keep silence, the closer you get to God. This is what Sritaramdas Swami says emphatically. Keep silence as much as possible. Do not waste your precious energy in talking unnecessarily. Because every thought consumes energy. Every word consumes even more precious energy. And it's words mostly that become actions. And you know how much more energy an action consumes. So knowing this, let us practice the silence as much as possible, knowing that the silence deposits our precious energy in the Nama bank, and that would lead to fructification of the Nama sadhana. So as we go on chanting and chanting and chanting, when the Vaikari becomes, it comes to Madhyama, Pashyanti and then Paravani. At Paravani, it merges with the Pranava and the pranic force becomes still. Until then, the prana would be moving about restlessly. But slowly, slowly, the restlessness of the prana is reduced to finally the stillness. So to control the prana and to bring the power of speech to the level of Paravani, one must keep on chanting, chanting, chanting without wasting your precious energy to the extent possible in the circumstances. And we know this prana will finally take us to Prananath and merges in him. So let us remember how important is to observe the silence. And when you speak again, you have to see if it is necessary, and always have a kind word for others so that it would put a smile on others. It will create sattvic vibrations, good vibrations, which carry back good energy to you. Otherwise, do not waste it. Paramacharya says, the tongue is made only for chanting the name of the Divine and for praising Him and reciting the shlokas in praise of God. Anything else is only a waste. Now, we shall submit our today's prayer at the lotus feet of Bhagwan. Bhagwan, we beg you again and again, crores of times, for your immediate divine intervention to free the entire humanity from the clutches of this Rakshasic virus and bring back normalcy everywhere. And Bhagwan, we beg you again to uproot all the negativities from the hearts of people, arrest the rapid spread of the disease, enter those medicines which would kill these viruses once for all. And we beg you again, for the sake of those great warriors who are fighting the disease, the open field at the very risk of their lives, to give them protection and all-round welfare. We also beg you for a lift to our economy. And above all, we seek your blessings for that non-stop chanting of your divine auspicious name, knowing that no single nama goes waste, and every nama is one step ahead towards the divine, towards the ultimate silence, towards that pure awareness which we call Parabrahman. And we beg you again to be able to be good instruments in your hands so that we could run our everyday life as an offering to you. And finally, we beg you for that ultimate state of pure awareness, the state of fullness, the state of supreme Ananda. And for that, we need complete transformation, which could happen only by your grace. We beg you to cleanse our mind so that we could see only your existence everywhere, only your leelas in all happenings of life, and your grace in all sufferings also. We beg you again and again and again for that ultimate eternal living. Jai Yogi Ramsuratkumar.